Years sooner if I had known this. Quads have been a challenging area. Despite me being able to squat 2.5 times my body weight, I was never quite satisfied with my quadriceps growth. So over the years, I dug into the research and tested on both myself and clients, all so you don't have to. Here's everything I found. First, we're going to start with range of motion. For the quads specifically, longer range of motion is better for growing. To anyone who has been lifting for a while, this might seem really obvious, but the quads are kind of unique when it comes to getting a long range of motion, especially when it comes to the most commonly used quad exercises. Here's the problem that we have, okay? Take me for example. When I squat, I go hips all the way back, knees stay no tracking forward, shins are pretty much vertical. What we want for the quadriceps is something that looks a little bit more like this. We want to, again, try to get the calves all the way to the hamstrings. So, why? Well, you might think that doing a bunch of mobility work, stretching, foam rolling, things like this is going to change your squat form, but it's not. You see a similar thing with the lunge, where most of the time when people lunge, there's very little forward knee travel. Now you can force yourself to do it, and then the heel comes up. We'll come back to that later. It's not about mobility work. It's not about having tight ankles. It's more so about how you are built. Tom Purvis from personaltraining.com does a far better job explaining this than I ever could. So over to him.
So right now, let's take a look. If I put a very short tibia on this person, you're going to notice that their ability to squat down starts to look like he's leaning really far forward. If this person's tibia was longer, they're just collapsing more. They're not necessarily leaning forward more, and that's going to totally change how it feels on their low back. And they might be going, oh, squats are all in your low back. Yeah, especially when you're built this way. And someone who's built differently, it will feel entirely different. And they'll say, no, squats are always in the quads. Why don't you understand this? They don't get that the proportions are critical to this assumption and sensation.
So how do we fix all this? Well, we've got a couple of options. We got 3 things we can do. First, squat shoes. Now, not all squat shoes are created equally. I feel bad for phrasing it that way, but you know what I mean. Some of them have a higher heel than others do. I'm wearing the Addy Powers right now, and again, my squat still looks very much so like this, but the Reebok powerlifting or Olympic lifting shoe has a higher heel, so that would drive my knees further forward. So kind of look into how high the heel is before you purchase a pair of squat shoes, but they will help. Another thing you can do, I'm sure you've seen this before, heels up on a plate, or they even make boards now, slant boards that you could put your entire foot on. That'll give you an angle, and when you squat that way, the knees will track all the way forward and back up, better for the quadriceps. And another thing you can do, move that, is let your heel come up. Now, I personally do this on things like the leg press and even sometimes on split squats. So instead of just keeping my heel all the way down, I'll let my heel rise so I can get as much knee flexion as I possibly can before I come back up. Now, if you're not used to this range of motion, be careful at first. Start with just body weight, see how it feels. But there's nothing necessarily wrong with letting your heels rise up. Now, if you're doing a barbell back squat, you got a ton of weight on your back, you don't want to potentially lose your balance. So I wouldn't recommend doing that there. But with something that's single leg, where you can take your offhand, hold on to something for balance, and go here, it's great. And sissy squats as well, it's a similar thing where the heels are going to rise up so you can get your knees all the way forward. Good. Second, we need to talk about stretching. Wait, not that kind of stretching, don't leave. I'm talking about stretching and lifting at the same time. Stretch-mediated hypertrophy is strong in the quadriceps, the part of each quad exercise where your hamstring is closest to your calf is the most important and produces excellent growth. And we've also got a ton of options for accomplishing this. You've got 4 heads in your quadriceps, vastus lateralis, intermedius, and shit. I always forget the third one. You got 4 heads to your quadriceps, lateralis, medialis, and the intermedius. Intermedius I can never remember because it tucks underneath your rectus femoris. You can't see it, so who cares about it? But the important part here is those 3, as well as the rectus femoris, all work in conjunction to extend your knee, right? So when you're at the bottom of a deep squat, those 3 heads are adequately stretched. But the rectus femoris is a very different story. This leads me to my third point. The rectus femoris attaches at both the knee and the hip. And while all 4 of the heads of the quadriceps help extend your knee, only the rectus femoris flexes the hip. So it needs a bit of a unique touch. I always recommend somebody have a leg extension in their quad programming. Reason being is because of the anatomy of the rectus femoris, it is active while you are performing squats. When you're seated on a leg extension, because you're in a seated position, the rectus femoris doesn't really need to act a whole lot. It's resting essentially. So the rectus femoris can actively help with knee extension. So we see more rectus femoris activity performing a leg extension than we do on a squat. And there was a study not too long ago that compared doing a leg extension with a 40-degree hip angle versus a 90-degree hip angle. And they found rectus femoris activity was a lot higher and grew more with the 40-degree angle when compared to the 90-degree angle. And why is that? Because in the 90-degree angle, your rectus femoris is in a contracted position here. So again, it can't help extend the knee as well as it would be able to if it's in a totally resting position and is lengthened. Therefore, it can contract and lengthen at the knee. So always have some type of leg extension, preferably with your hips more extended. And you can go leg extension or sissy squat, or what I like to do, both of them. Point number 4, training variables. The quads respond well to higher volume due to having a bigger work capacity than most of the other muscles. Now, this makes sense when you consider what the quads have to do in the body and how often they have to work. Your quad needs to extend your knee every time you take a step or run, every time you walk up a flight of stairs or climb onto something. Brad Schoenfeld found in his 2017 meta-analysis that the quads respond well to 10 to 20 weekly sets, roughly, and doing this over the course of 3 or 2 workouts per week. Although you could do more workouts and fewer sets per workout so you don't absolutely wreck yourself every time you train legs. It also seems that light, medium, and heavy weights work well so long as you train close to failure. Number 5, lightning round of quad research stuff. Front squats might bias the quadriceps more due to having a more upright torso and more knee range of motion. Also, the back squat will allow you to go heavier, although it'll let you go heavier. The leg press brings a similar amount of muscle growth as the back squat when the volume is the same. And as far as split squats and lunges, the shorter your step length and the more upright your torso is, the more quadriceps you will get. Blood flow restriction training with knee extension proved a lot of muscle growth with very light weight, meaning you don't have to load your knees and lower back in order to see progress. Here's what all of this will look like. Day 1, we're going heavy. So you can choose from the back squat, the front squat, or the leg press, and we'll be doing 4 sets of 4 to 8 reps. Make sure you get the longest range of motion possible. Try to get your calves to your hamstrings on each rep, and we're applying as much weight as we possibly can safely. Day 2, we've got some single leg work, and we'll be going a little bit lighter. You can choose from the lunge, a split squat, or the Bulgarian split squat, whatever you find most preferable 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps. And day 3, we're going with a leg extension or sissy squat variation, 4 sets of 12 to 15 reps. We are looking at training the rectus femoris here. Again, getting the longest range of motion possible, and we want our hips as extended as possible. Either 40-degree angle on the leg extension or hips fully extended while performing a sissy squat. By the way, you can follow along and even track this workout at that first link in our description. That's it for today's video, folks. I hope that was helpful. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Check us out in your app store. That's Muscle Wiki, all one word. I'm Coach Ty with Muscle Wiki, and I will see you with the next one. Deuces.